All right, so the next section is one of the most loved sections of the afternoon. It is 3 journeys that you will hear about today that I'm super excited about hearing these 3 journeys. And I'll give you a brief intro of all the 3 people who are coming up on stage. And after that, we are going to get started. So first up, we have Amit Goswamy, who's going to talk about my journey from tech to alchemy. Extremely interesting title. Let me tell you something about Amit. He's from IIT Roorkee and Stanford MBA. And amidst a career of technology, he discovered that his true calling was actually founding a company called Livionex, sorry about that, with a vision of addressing unmet medical needs. So he went completely from technology into the medical field, and this is what he's going to talk about today. His company has won prestigious research grants from the US National Institutes of Health and US Department of Defense, and he was recognized as the INC 500 company in 2016. I asked him, is there any fun fact to share? And he said, you'll have to wait for my talk. So I'm really excited about that one.
So when I click it, it's going to go to that one?
Yeah. Right, and you can see it here as well.
Oh, there we go. You know, how many here attended the career transitions talk? So now, like Charlie Osgood, I'm going to tell you the rest of the story, what happens after you transition. So I was a tech guy till 2002, had a 20-year career in technology, worked for large corporations, did 3 startups that got acquired at various stages, and then real magic happened. The magic of alchemy was being able to come up with cures for diseases that were inevitable and untreatable. And there is a certain humor in the situation, because personally, I had never imagined I would find my calling outside of tech, let alone pharma. My journey started with yet another Roorkee alum. He was the class of 1942. Mr. Bhushan, in 2002, was pronounced untreatably blind by Stanford and UCSF. It took another IIT Kanpur dropout, his son Rajiv, to invent an eye drop that restored his father's vision. Hard to believe, and I didn't believe it either. Till Mr. Bhushan, I used to call him Uncle Ji, came to our home and threaded a needle at age 84. Rajiv and I saw a large business opportunity and also the potentially large impact on public health. And actually, another person who was very involved at that time was Abhay Bhushan. Raise your hand, Abhay. He's also IIT Kanpur. I went about the process of learning ophthalmology, and I was so grateful for my engineering background. Because if there is one thing I had learned in engineering, it was not to be afraid of opaque problems. We focused the company on treating eye drops, treating cataracts, where the only cure was surgery. We had an eye drop to improve vision in people with cataracts without surgery. Just so you know, 100% of the population gets cataracts. Cataract-based vision loss starts in the 40s, and the average age of surgery is in the late 60s, early 70s. There are 87 million Americans who have cataract. And here, nobody goes blind because surgery is affordable, Medicare is there, and so on. But in the rest of the world, 51% of world blindness is due to cataract. Actually, even if surgery was free, there aren't enough ophthalmologists to do cataract surgery. We went about doing pilot clinical studies to validate the hypothesis. My own personal aha moment came when my own wife's vision improved. Suddenly, the project became so much more real and personal. Talking about transitions, raising funds was a humbling experience. After all, two techies with a cure for cataracts strained credibility for most investors. But our data was good, and it spoke for itself. You can see the results of our clinical trials on the screen. Statistically, 1 in 10,000 drugs that are developed makes it to market. And based on our clinical results, our success probability increased to 1 in 3. But, there's always a but. It was 2009, and the financial tsunami hit. So we went from planning new clinical trials, a liquidity event, to our investors disbanding, and us having to dissolve the company. By this time, we knew we had a broad technology platform that worked in cataracts, but it could also be applied to multiple other disease areas. But drug development, by definition, is very risky. It has binary outcomes. It either works or it doesn't work. It's safe or not safe. Drug development, to me, is like jumping between two cliffs that are 12 feet apart. If you jump 11 feet, you get 0 credit because you end up dead. So relatively speaking, now this is different from technology where you can do multiple releases to gradually address the market need. From my perspective, in tech, there is low development risk and high market risk, relatively speaking. And drugs is the opposite. You have high development risk and low market risk because market needs are very well understood. We had to make a decision on what to do next. So I went to my personal stockholders, my family. And I was incredibly fortunate because my wife and both children were unwavering and unanimous in their support. That is the bedrock on which Livionex is built. With their support, I went to my partners, and I said, let's acquire the technology and start a new company. It was literally, damn the torpedoes. Let's move ahead. It was 2009, and nobody was investing in pharma, at least at any reasonable valuation and terms. And we did not have $30 million to fund the FDA trials required for approval. But we had intellectual property, and we were free to do whatever we thought was right. So we won grants from the US National Institute of Health and Department of Defense to accelerate wound healing. That paid the bills, and very importantly, it validated the technology platform because wounds healed in half the time. So we had a technology that worked in cataracts and wounds. Again, it was not enough because we had to get to sustainable profitability. So as we researched, we found out that toothpaste was classified as a cosmetic by the FDA, which means it didn't require large phase 3 trials for market approval. And we discovered there are published studies which showed that if you brush with toothpaste or you brush with water, you get very similar results. So this was a $12 billion annual revenue industry. This is annual, based on bubbles, flavor, and packaging. No wonder 9 out of 10 American adults, I'm talking of 180 million adults in America, have gum bleeding and inflammation. The US CDC, Centers for Disease Control, says that 47% of all adults over 30, that's in a developed country, 64 million adults, have irreversible gum disease. And we all brush. And the irreversible gum disease is called periodontitis. And it's linked to cardiac disease, it's linked to arthritis, and more. And the numbers are even worse in India. This is a public health problem nobody talks about. Serious stuff. Now I had to learn dentistry. We realized that our technology could really change the oral care landscape. So as we developed product, we hired a top US university to do a study, a double-blind study. And the results showed that Live Fresh Dental Gel, which was our product, was 2.5 times better than the #1 brand of toothpaste. We picked the best because we had to try it against the best. The difference in efficacy was very similar to the difference between sulfa drugs and penicillin. What we effectively found out was if you brush with Live Fresh dental gel, you get close to a professional cleaning twice a day with all the associated benefits. We started selling the product on our website and Amazon. Today, as the dental gel continues to sell, we are working on an FDA approval that will make the dental gel the first product in the world to treat and prevent gingivitis and periodontitis. We are ready to start the next series of trials in the eye drops finally, and we have new products in the pipeline. And we have been able to accomplish it without raising external funds. To summarize, we are developing products that address unmet medical needs in ophthalmology, dermatology, and oral care. Today, these diseases are considered as an inevitable part of aging. In the near future, we'll have a cure for them. The talk was about a transition from tech to alchemy, and what led me here today to where I am. Let me share a few learnings with you. Humility. When you go to an area where you know nothing about it, it's a really humbling experience. Yet anything can be learned. Persistence. And these, in a way, are beyond tech and pharma or whatever. When you have a wall in front of you, an obstacle, you have no idea how tall it is, how thick it is, will you be able to go around it, over it, through it? Persistence really matters. There are lots of things, there are many right answers, even more wrong answers, and then there's stuff that happens that's outside your control. So the ability to adapt, having a plan A, B, C, D, and beyond is important. The career transition folks were talking about passion. I think it's a necessary ingredient because you have to go through adversity, you have to go through setbacks, calamities, which are all part of the game. Insanity. When people think you're doing something foolish and you think it's reasonable, that is the definition of insanity. And if you look at it, all through the history, with all major breakthroughs, they were all considered insane till they were generally accepted. And lastly, I'll tell you, good luck and serendipity really, really help. I'll close by leaving you with one of my favorite quotes. Regret for what you have done is tempered by time. Regret for what you have not done is inconsolable. Thank you.